I'll just set them here. If you have some.
I'll call the January 23rd Wright County Board meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to all of you. Nice to see a crowd, even though some of you are employees. Always nice to see them, though, too. Minutes for the County Board meeting of January 9th, 2018. That needs to get changed. It shows 2017 or 17. So County Board minutes need to be changed to 2018.
Correct. I'll make a motion with that amendment to approve the minutes from January 9th.
Second that, but a couple of little changes.
Commissioner Houston?
Page 2, it's just, we just have an extra D on the third to last paragraph, the last line, well, not last line, but second to last line, entity to hand pick and, it's just, should be an ordinance. And then on page 3, when we were discussing the, this would be the third paragraph down also, Newsom has fielded concerns on the topic relative to education and safety, and then a state license would be required. They actually are a state school, so I don't remember exactly what I said, but so the charter school is a state school. It's a public school. I think we could just strike that.
Or should just change it from B to is required? Just stating the fact.
Yeah.
That's all you were really doing, wasn't it?
Yes.
I found it.
Thanks.
All right.
Is that it?
Yep.
You English people talk good, too. Is there any other? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. The agenda. Do we have anything to add to the agenda? Remove, away?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Potter, second by Commissioner Hewsome to approve the agenda. Any further discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Consent agenda. Is there anything that anybody would like to have removed for further discussion?
Mr. Chair, I just think it might be interesting for people to look at the approval of the pay equity implementation report. It's kind of nice to see how we're, right in line with expectations with our hiring and.
You want it pulled, or are you just saying that everybody should look at it?
I think it'd be good for people to have a look at it. I don't think we necessarily need to pull it unless Mr. Kelly has any comments about it.
No real comments to submit other than, as you know, we're required to submit this every 3 years. We have till the end of the month to do so. So this, what's included in your packet is what will be going to the state of Minnesota.
Yeah.
And Mr. Chair, this report looks a lot better than the one we turned in from the library board.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it looked good.
Okay. Is there anything else, or is there anything that anybody really would like to remove from the consent agenda?
Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Potter, second by Commissioner Hewsome. Is there any further discussions on the consent agenda? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. So we are up to 9:02. Adam Tagaro, IT Director, and someday he'll be our award-winning IT Director.
Someday.
Someday.
Mr. Chair, and good morning, Commissioners. This morning, it's my pleasure to introduce to you our new project portfolio analyst. This is Britta Holland. She joined us back in November, hit the ground running, and is really helping take lead on our project portfolio.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. As Adam said, I'm Britta Holland, the new Project Portfolio Analyst. Prior to my position here at Wright County, I worked for the state with Minute as a project manager. In that role, I not only was managing projects, but also was kind of taking the lead on our standardizing our internal processes with regard to project intake and resource allocation. So this portfolio analyst position is a good fit so far, and I'm happy to be here.
I did ask her if she had anything to do with MNLARs or MNsure, and she adamantly denied having anything to do with those at all. So
Nope.
hopefully, you know, she'll be able to do a good job for the county then.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Potter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Britta, are you from Wright County originally? There's some Hollands around here.
I am not.
Okay.
Right now, I'm actually originally from Massachusetts, and my husband's family is from Wisconsin, so,
Okay.
yep.
And we're waiting for the board chair to say his famous line now.
Right.
Well,
She live in the Wright County.
no, she doesn't live in the Wright County. She just gets to work for the Wright County. We can't have everything.
That's true.
At least we have her in the Wright County. Then, yeah, welcome to working for the Wright County.
Yeah.
Thank you very
There
much.
are too many people that can say that, that they work for the Wright County in Minnesota.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to
Thank
meet
you,
you.
Ward.
Oh, and one other question. Are we done yet?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Alicia O'Hare and Diane Sander from the Crow River Organization of Water.
Good morning. Morning, Chair. Good morning, Board. How are you today? We're here to ask that you release the North Fork One Watershed, One Plan for a 60-day comment period.
One quick thing. Would you just state your names?
Sorry.
Not everybody, I think, knows you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Mr. Chair. I'm Alicia O'Hare from the Wright Soil and Water Conservation District.
Diane Sander, coordinator for the Crow River Organization of Water.
Thank you.
So, as I said, we have a complete draft of the North Fork One Watershed, One Plan is available online, and the links were included in the board meeting packet. During the comment period, we will are planning 3 informational meetings that will occur in various parts of the watershed, so we can coordinate with neighboring counties to potentially work with them. And then at the end of the 60-day comment period, we will schedule a public hearing that will utilize the policy committee for the One Watershed, One Plan that Commissioner Burrell serves on. And that'll serve as a public hearing, and then they can approve the draft pending any changes that come up in the comments.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Potter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Burrell, have you any comments on this? Because I know you've been working.
No, I think it's okay to do that, to start the comment period, because this isn't the final thing right now. This is what it's been proposed. We're going to go through the comment period. Anyone, I mean, you could comment on it. And I was not at the last meeting. I was not feeling well, so I'm not exactly sure the final. I didn't really go online and look at the final draft of it, but I think we're very, very close to what we were thinking will work. I still had some concerns because if this just simply taking the grant money from Bowser, different state agencies, and dividing it out, putting it where the group feels is best needed, where you'll get the best bang for the buck. But if it ever did become a taxing thing, so I just think somewhere in the comment period or the final draft, we just have to make sure that that is not ever going to happen, because what happens with the Crow, and I let Diane know this all the time, Wright County is the big fish in the Crow. Okay, so we pay the lion's share when there is an assessment, because it's based on our population and our tax base and...
It's land in the watershed and then also the population.
Yeah, so we end up paying quite a bit. And our representation is 1 vote, the same as a smaller county that might pay $318 compared to our $15,000, whatever. So I just want to make sure that we have some representation, and actually, I just hope that it never comes to being a taxing authority, but that needs to be addressed somewhere, and that's what kind of has been my,
And Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Potter?
this is why I brought it up, because I know they had concerns before about, we have a lot of the area, and we have one vote, and we don't want to be overridden by somebody that's very small. And as long as these concerns are being addressed and dealt with, I know it's been a long process to get this done, and it makes sense to get it done. We just got to make sure we get the little fine tuning of the language in here that everybody can be comfortable with.
And this is something that we've just had to work with too, Commissioner Potter, is there's also 2 watershed districts in the one watershed, one plan. They are also going to get a vote. So in effect, the counties that have the watershed, and also obviously, and because they're the county, ends up with a double vote. So it's just something, we're going to have to trust that they are doing the best for the watershed, because both of those are further to our west and upstream, the North Fork.
It's the North Fork Crow River
And
Watershed
the Middle
District
Fork.
and the Middle Fork Crow River Watershed
So they are actually part of our organization, even though they're within the counties that they serve to. So I think we've worked it out. We've really talked it through a lot, and we're real close. But this is just a comment period. This is actually a good place to kind of get those last little details out in the open and see if there is a way to adequately address them. So.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I know one of the advantages of doing this was to eliminate people fighting for a small pot of money and look at the system overall and do something better for the whole system instead of piecemealing it here or there. Is that my understanding of it?
Yep.
More cooperative effort.
Yep. Okay. And then one other question is, so this will be out for public comment. Where will people be able to find this?
There's a link to the Crow's website, so it's on our top of the page on our website, crowriver.org, and there's right away there's a 60-day comment period, and you can download both the draft document and then also the appendices to it. They are lengthy documents. The draft document is close to 300 pages, so it takes about 1.5 minutes to download, and then the appendices is about close to 200 pages, a little less labor-intensive for downloading, but there's a lag time there. But
and then what, 10, 15 minutes to read?
Yeah.
A lot of pictures, right?
Depending upon your speed, it could be. There's a lot of information, but we've been working really hard to make it as user-friendly and also easily to understand. Considering it's covering such a large area.
Okay. Lee, do you think, since this is being approved by the county board, can we get a link also on our county website on the front page to start out with, and let it slowly work its way out?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Just to get the word out, I think that'd be a good move.
I mean, I just think since we're approving it, it should be on the county website too.
Correct. I think it'd be easier for the public to see it too. I don't want the public to come back and say, well, it was buried somewhere we didn't know.
Right.
We want to eliminate that.
Yeah. And I'm sure the press will also be getting the word, helping to get the word out too regarding this. All right.
Mr. Chair,
yes,
with that, I'll make a motion to approve the release of the North Fork Crow River One Watershed One plan for the 60-day public comment period.
I'll second that.
A motion again by Commissioner Potter and again seconded by Commissioner Hewsome. I don't know what happened to our other two commissioners. Is there any further discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do I have one more item on the agenda for the local watershed plan? I assumed it was on there.
Number 2.
Number 2, yes.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay, thank you, Mr. Chair and Board. You approved the amendment to the local comprehensive watershed plan, but we do need to have a public hearing for it. There's no required comment period from the state, so it's whatever the county would like to do for posting it, having a comment period, and then having a public hearing. So, and there's no, you can have it during one of your normal board meetings at the 9:30 that usually happens. Whatever works for you.
Did you have a suggestion, like one that's up real soon, like next week or a couple weeks, or?
Well, I would think we'd want a few weeks out because we want to get it notified out there.
Usually need notice at least 10 days in advance. 10 days. Here,
Oh,
2 or 3 weeks out.
For the second Tuesday in February?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I guess my recommendation is to target either February 13th or 20th, which is a few weeks out, just to make sure we can have plenty of time to meet publishing deadlines.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion then to set a public hearing for the local water, comprehensive water management plan for February 20th at our regular board meeting.
we'd have to specify a certain time.
No, 9:30.
9:30.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Burrell, second by Commissioner Batch. Is there any further discussions?
I think that reprimand there really worked well.
Wasn't a reprimand, it was just a
Observation.
observation, correct. No other discussions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
Well, Charlie, we're only 1 for 2. We're not that far behind.
Oh, I don't know, I think there's more than that. Not that I'm keeping track or anything. Now, on to our award-winning county auditor.
Morning, Board. Before I get to my agenda items, I do want to let you know that Matt will be watching this one watershed for 103E issues. We have drainage issues. We want to make sure that we're not going to set up a conflict for our abilities to maintain our ditch systems.
So you've got 500 pages to read from what I just understand.
By 4 o'clock today.
And break it down into about 5 pages for me.
Summary.
Yeah, that's a great idea, yeah. Summarize it then for the board.
So Board, my agenda items. The first one is to approve a registered land survey number 45. This is in Silver Creek Township. This is much like a plat. The proper fees, proper eyes have seen this. This registered land surveyor is in the back. Commissioner Delight, this is your first one, so you'll need to sign it along with Lee. There's a special pen you have to use.
And if I don't want to use that pen?
You go deal with Kathy Green.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve a registered land survey number 45 in Silver Creek Township.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Potter. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Board, my next 2 items, we'll take them one by one, are temporary liquor license. There are events coming up here on February 3rd, Saturday. So the first one is for an event called Abate of Minnesota, Inc. This is at Rockford Township Hall. Everything has been signed off and the fees have been paid.
Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the temporary liquor license for the Abate of Minnesota for the event of February 2nd, 2018.
Motion by
February
Commissioner
3rd,
Potter,
sorry.
second by Commissioner Houston.
I believe it's February 3rd.
3rd, excuse me, 2nd, February 3rd. Stand correct there.
Is there any further discussions?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Potter.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just for the public to note, ABATE stands for American Bikers Advocating Training and Education. The idea is to educate, don't legislate on some things, because the legislature has a tendency to knee-jerk legislate things, and they're more advocating, educate the public on everything is the first step you should be taking on these. So I just want to make that clear for those that didn't know what that meant.
And this was for bicycles, right?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, with motors.
And this is something that they have every year there.
This is
It's
an
been going on for quite a
annual
while.
meeting.
I think we've had it since we've been on board.
Yeah. So, all right, any further discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Commissioners, the second is another event, again on Saturday, February 3rd. This one's in Maple Lake. This is the Ice Fishing Derby. I believe this one is sponsored, and then weather says we cancel. But again, the intent is to have this event on Saturday, February 3rd in Maple Lake. Again, we have the proper signatures and fees paid.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the temporary liquor license for Maple Lake Properties on February 3rd, 2018.
Second.
And they had to cancel the last 2 years. I think, is this the 47th? So hopefully they're going to be able to go forward.
Maybe Commissioner Houston will come out and jump in the lake with me that morning.
Are you going to plunge?
I am going to go.
Oh, if I wasn't at a library event that morning, I would.
I might pay to see that.
Yeah.
Commissioner Houston, I'll be glad to share my suggestion for suit to you as well as.
I do love that picture. That was good.
What is your suggestion?
It's a deep sea diving.
We have a motion by Commissioner Potter, a second by Commissioner Burrell. Is there any further discussion?
Commissioner Houston.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Houston. I'm so used to, since it was constantly there for a while. Is there any further discussions regarding the Maple Lake liquor license? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Board, the fourth item I have on the agenda is to approve the December budget report. I kind of wanted to hold off. I wanted to release it to you to let you know how we did on a cash basis. But there are a lot of things that we're going to go through and sure up, how much revenue did we get that belongs to the next year or for the year prior. On expense-wise is the same. So I'm going to present to you a modified accrual basis, which is closer to what our audited numbers are. That'll give you the number that you can use for budgeting. So, but on a cash basis, there's two things I want to draw your attention to. Is one, you remember, Board, you did approve a $1.9 million transfer to capital projects. This was based off of the 2016 audited fund balance. We had met our threshold, so we transferred
page number on that one?
This would be page 17 if we have the same budget report. So there's 01-100 6975. So on a cash basis, we did turn back money to the general fund, but that's after we transferred $1.9 million. So we really did well. Did you find that, Board?
Yeah, I found it. I got
okay. So just to refresh your memory, there's no budget for that, but we did transfer it. The other item, which I brought to your attention as we're going throughout the whole year, was on page 35. The boarding of prisoners, we did change that revenue up to $700,000, and we took in $1.69 million. So those two things almost offset each other, but other than that, I guess I can invite any questions. I did bring down OpenGov if you wanted to see what it looks like now, but I think it's going to be more meaningful when we do the accruals, which will be through February. So sometime in March, I'll present to you 2017 again.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the December cash revenue expenditure budget report.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Potter, second by Commissioner Vetch. Is there any further discussions regarding the December cash revenue expenditure budget reports? Look on the last page, you'll see also what we have extra left over from last year on the cash accrual basis. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. And Bob, this will be posted on the county website now?
Yep. Board, this cash basis will be posted on the county website under the financial statements. So,
thank you.
Yep.
Thanks.
Dr. Mattice, if you're awake yet. You're not a numbers guy?
What do you think?
He seems okay.
I can add.
I know I went to school for accounting to start out with and kept falling asleep, so it wasn't in my bag.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Had a couple meetings here the last few weeks. Bertram Chain Lakes Advisory Council and the Wright County Parks Commission. Out of that, we've had a couple recommendations to come towards you. Boom. Look at that. Works.
It's upside down.
It was upside right to me. Most things are upside down. Stanley Eddy Park, you're familiar with it. On January 4th, I was contacted by a family that owns 20 acres in the middle of the south unit right here. Okay. They asked if we'd be willing to make an offer. I told them our process. We've had conversations with them on and off for a number of years. Sounds like they may be a little more serious. Told them our process was to first do an appraisal. Obviously a landlocked parcel within the middle of the park. It's well wooded. It's on the biological survey. Park Commission is requesting your approval to proceed with an appraisal to come up with a fair market price and see what they think. And then grant deadline is March, so we'd be trying to go after a grant for that in March. Well, submitting by March.
Mr. Chair.
So time is kind of the essence.
Commissioner Potter?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mark, is this the same parcel we talked about a year ago, or just about a year, last year? There was a piece within there that somebody was talking about selling. Is this the same
That
one?
would, I didn't make a big enough map. We own 181 acres just right here.
Oh, that was way out there, okay.
That parcel's here, so as you allowed me to go after a grant, do appraisals with that one, with that grant, I could put both of these parcels in the same grant.
Okay. I just was want to make clear which one, okay. Thank you.
Wasn't there one, was this the park where somebody wanted to donate some land, or was that one of the other parks?
That was Albert Yeager.
Oh, okay.
And that donation, we got all the paperwork together. We're just looking at recognition signage for the guy for approval before we go on.
Okay.
That was 16 acres down in Charlie's backyard.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Potter.
I'd like to make a motion to authorize the Director of Parks and Recreation to explore and discuss the willing seller feasibility, adding additional lands with the appraisal process.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Potter, seconded by Commissioner Reg. Is there any further discussions regarding this piece of property? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Thank you. Second item is, as you know, Bertram Chain Lakes, we have an advisory board. We're going to be going over some bylaws, but one of the at-large positions is open, and the advisory council is asking you to appoint Jim Lindberg, a resident of Monticello, as the at-large representative of the Bertram Chain Lakes Advisory Council. Jim has been very active. He's active in the Friends group. He was the school district representative, because one member on there is from the school district of Monticello. So we can do, because we do athletic events out there, we do the cross-country meet, maybe some school education, STEM stuff. But Jim is no longer the representative from the school board. Actually, Superintendent Favor, the new superintendent in Monticello, is accepted to fill that school district appointment. He wanted to be involved. So I think that's great. And so the at-large, Jim asked if he could, and they're recommending him to you.
I'll make a motion,
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to appoint Jim Lindberg as the resident of Monticello at large position on the Bertram Chain of Lake Advisory Committee.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Burrell, because Commissioner Houston wasn't quite fast enough. Is there any further discussions regarding this? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
It's very competitive up here this morning.
Yeah, it is, it is. That's good, that's good.
You know, you stirred the pot.
Keep things moving.
I thought Commissioner Burrell was slacking there for a little bit. Also, with the Bertram Chain Lakes Advisory Council, on March 3rd, 2014 is when we developed the actual bylaws, and we accepted Advisory Council on Resolution 14-11. With some changes to that, we don't have to redo the resolution. We just have to make changes to the bylaws, which I think that's what we decided, right? According to council. So in your packet, there's minor changes. Article, well, we're going to cross out all the whereas and the now fors and the what's beens, and just say it's the bylaws for the Bertram Chain of Lakes Council. Article 2, we'll be changing the second membership, Monticello Community Center no longer has an advisory board. They've combined their Parks Commission and their advisory, Community Center Advisory Board. So we're deleting the Community Center, dropping down to a 12-member board rather than a 13-member board, and just keeping their one representative from Monticello, now Parks and Recreation Commission. So that's a change. I like that better because we only have one representative from our Park Commission, so kind of evens things out a little bit. Page 2, there's a change that I missed when I submitted the agenda item, and that's under Article 7, committees. We'd like to, the Park Use Committee has always been for the passive use park, but we'd like to clarify it that it's for the regional/passive use park, our end of the world. Just clarify that because we don't want the athletic folks and stuff. Since the land negotiations are done, we thought we could get rid of the negotiations committee, and then we'd have to change that from the header that says currently there are 4 active committees, we'd say 3 active committees. And them are the modifications for your approval.
Anybody have any questions regarding the changes in the bylaws?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the bylaws for the Bertram Chain of Lake Advisory Council.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Beck, second by Commissioner Houston. Is there any further discussions on the amended bylaws? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
City Council took action on that, both last items last night, so thank you.
Commissioner Potter?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Mark, just for the joke you public, because I was having stuff, bike joring.
Bike joring.
Yeah.
I should have brought a picture.
Yeah.
Okay, so ski joring, you slap on your cross-country skis and your dog pulls you around the trails.
Okay.
Bike joring, you have a little harness on your dog with a pole and they pull you on your bike. So rather than e-bikes, you got dog-powered bikes. It's a new upcoming recreational trail use.
Does that meet EPA emission standards?
As long as they stop, pick up.
Mr. Mattice, have you tried this?
Have I tried this? No.
No.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I brought this up because you would like say, you see this, you know, I wasn't familiar with that terminology, and I think the public, some of them might look at that. The younger ones might know, and certain people might know, but if you're not part of that realm, you'll go, okay, what's this?
What the heck is this?
Well, that's one of the reasons because of the lack of snow in the past. And regarding Mr. Mattice doing that, no, as long as it's connected to a horse and skis or a bicycle.
Yeah.
Then you'd find Mr. Mattice doing that.
Yes.
Okay.
That'd be fun.
I don't know if I'd want to do that with a horse pull.
If I had a 3-wheel bike.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
Virgil Hawkins.
Morning, Chairman Deladen and Board of Commissioners. This morning I have 3 items for your consideration, and the first of which is to approve the Transportation Committee minutes from December 20th, and I would like to hand out a revised set of the minutes, and I should just remind everyone that minutes of our committee meetings that we take are not verbatim. They're not taken with a court stenographer. They're meant to be summary of discussion rather than every detail that every participant says. And just we want to capture the key discussion items that lead to a decision. We did, however, receive some input from the public, so we did include additional detail that was requested, and I would like to hand the revised minutes out.
Just replacing
One.
all the pages?
No, just under the discussion for project updates for Highway 18, some additional detail added.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Virgil. Also, there was 4 names on that signed, people that signed in that weren't on the attenders. So I just happened to notice that because one of them spoke and was referenced, and
Okay.
so
And they're not on the attendance sheet?
they're right. Not that I could see, but
Okay. So I'll go through the minutes of the meeting. There were 4 items discussed at the meeting. Number 1 was we received proposals for a transportation plan update. Number 2 was construction projects update, which was just informational. Number 3 was the federal project we're applying for, federal money, which was informational. And there was a major equipment update in Briarwood Avenue discussion. And so the transportation plan update, we received proposals from 2 firms, and we presented those, and the recommendation of the committee was, the consensus was to accept a proposal from SRF and have them work on that project for us. The next item was construction updates, and here we gave updates on 3 major construction projects that are happening this year: Highway 9, Highway 38, and Highway 18, and this was just an informational item. The next item was federal funding project application, another informational item. We're submitting Highway 19 and between the 2 one-way pairs in St. Michael for federal funding. That was informational. The next item was an update on where we were set with our budget and a request to trade in our wheeled Bobcat for a track Bobcat. And the recommendation made was to support the purchase of the track Bobcat and the needed attachments for the Bobcat and message board. And the 6th item was Briarwood Avenue, which is the main access for Bertram Chain of Lakes Regional Park, and a lot of discussion in this item was about the impact of the regional park development and how it impacts Briarwood Avenue, which is a township road. And the outcome of that discussion was it was recommended that a cost analysis and maintenance study be performed, and we put together a proposal for having that study done, and we've sent it to the city and the parks and the township to make sure they agree with the scope of work, and we've heard back from 2 of 3. Once we hear back from the third party, we'll send the proposal out to get a study, get proposals for that study. But with that, if there's any other questions or revisions to the minutes?
Does anybody have any questions at all?
Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes and the recommendations.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Newsom, second by Commissioner Potter. Is there any further discussions? And we do have one. Better come up here, Mark. Yep. You need the exercise.
Wellness Committee.
And everybody keeps shaking their head when I said that, too.
I'm sure they did. My only comment on the minutes was during the meeting regarding Briarwood Avenue with the city, township, and county, we did not discuss a potential funding source for that study or cost share. If you'd like to give us some direction on how you foresee that.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Potter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For Mark's information, when we were talking about that, I think we want to do the study to see how deep the water was before we start figuring out all this other stuff. Because the funding source is important, but we still got to see exactly what's going on here, what that comes out of that study first.
I think the study is what...
Funding for the study.
Funding for the study.
Yeah.
Not the other.
Wasn't that between
The city and the county, I thought we were splitting the cost between the city and the county on that.
Right.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I
recall it, because
thought we talked about that also.
Since this is related to the parks, I guess the question is, would it come out of parks funding or other funding? Or?
That's a great one.
One of the highways got more money.
I could be more direct.
I don't know, can your budget handle it, Mark?
I don't know the cost.
Yeah, what was
But the thing is, we won't know until we get the proposals back. We're guessing between 8 and 10,000.
Yeah.
At this time, I did receive a bid on one of my projects that came in substantially under because we did not have an asbestos abatement problem. Our testing went fine, so we budgeted for a demo at Bertram with asbestos potentials because we didn't know. And that came in under because of the abatement didn't have to occur. So, I mean, we could take it out of our site improvement line up to what it came under. Just make it easy.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Newsom?
Would it be appropriate to, find out the cost and then identify the funding source, or would you rather have it identified today?
It makes no difference to me.
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Potter?
A follow-up on this one is, that was where I was going with what Commissioner Houston was saying. But being where it is a city and county thing, I think it would come out of the parks budget along with the city since they're doing it. That'd be the appropriate because it's being done on behalf of and at the request of them.
Yeah, I agree.
It would make more sense. And we're not talking, like the Northeast Wright County study, we're not talking $139,000. We're talking a minor amount comparison. And plus it gives you a blueprint on how you phase in different parts of that development on how this goes forward and what the timeline is.
All right. Yep.
We're
If
good?
it's over with that, we'll come back.
Okay.
If it's over what I saved on my other bit. Thank you.
Do we have a motion and a second regarding the minutes? Is there any further discussion?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Potter?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the second page of the minutes up there for in the middle, it says
The new ones or the?
I don't think this particular subject is going to matter any. This was the soil borings that were done. Before you were doing it really quick, but do you have the results of those soil borings done on County Road 18?
Yes, we do. We got the report back, and right now we're evaluating. It's going to impact how we design the project versus if it's a surcharge or using lightweight foam, and we're still determining which is the best way to go. Within the next week, we'll have that answer, and then we'll proceed.
And you'll present it to the board when you figure out which direction to go on that one?
Well, we certainly can. I mean, it's, we'd just like to keep going with the project once we know which is the best way to go. We're having the geotechnical engineers evaluate the risk, and then the cost, of course, is a big factor. And then the timing, it's probably going to end up being a carryover project into 2019. But there's certain risks involved with each option, so we want to do what's best financially and also long-term for the road, so.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Mr. Potter.
Virgil, the reason I bring this up is because when there's a lot of talk floating out there, these cost overruns, this thing's double what it was supposed to be, and all that gobble that goes out there has no facts behind it. And I just think that when we come to the soil borings, what we actually have there to let the public know what we discovered and what our options are, just to make sure that they don't say you're trying to hide something, and get the facts out there so people.
We certainly could do that, and we have a report back that people can come and look at. It's public information as far as I know. For
I think it's more of an executive summary on.
And then the cost itself is, I think, we estimated the county share at $2 million when we did our local option sales tax. And right now, even with the soil correction, we're at about $2.2 million. So our share is pretty much what we guessed at when we did the local option sales tax. So I'm not sure the basis for these other numbers that are being floated around out there.
Well, I'd like to say there's certain people out there just want to throw fireballs at everything. You just want to make sure you answer it with facts.
Sure. We can sure do that.
For the other commissioners' information, there is an actual site connected to the highway department for County Road 38 and also County Road 18 now, with drawings and any information pertaining to those.
Public hearings and open house presentations on our website.
All the information.
Okay.
On our highway website, we have links to project pages for 38 and for 18.
So just to let you know that everything is out there. Okay. And it's the newest design too. So it's not anything old. It was received yesterday from my understanding.
Yeah, we just got an updated layout on the 18 project, and that's going to be uploaded to that project site.
I was dialing more on the borings because that was what the rhetoric was out there floating around about the borings.
We anticipated poor soils in that area, so that was figured in, and it's really not much more than we figured it would be. So.
Thank you.
And then one other thing, as long as this one is regarding the sales tax money, we got the first or the fourth quarter in.
2 months of the fourth.
Oh, it was just 2 months?
Just 2 months.
October, November.
And that was, how much again?
$951,000, October, November.
Okay. So we're fairly close to what
It
we.
translates to about 5.2 or 5.3 million, which is about what we thought we would.
Yeah,
Yeah, everything being equal, so, okay.
yeah, good job estimating.
And then that information is also going to eventually end up on the highway website or somewhere. I don't think we found a place for it yet, but we do want to get that information out to the public too.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I was hoping that when we get the December numbers, then we put out the full quarter.
Yeah.
At that point in time, and they can break it down per month, so we have a whole fourth quarter.
No, I agree.
From what I
It's just a
understand,
matter of-
there's like a 2-month delay. They give us a preliminary number on the 5th of a month after it's collected, and then a month later, we get the actual number for that month. So there's a couple ways you can wait until we get the final number for the month of October, which is probably 2 months later. So
Well, I know I just paid December's on Monday, yesterday, 20th.
Yeah, it's too late, yeah.
So,
I only have to file once a year for my other business, so you won't get that until February.
alrighty. We've had our
Motion second.
motion and second. Is there any further discussions? Charlie, you okay back there? Okay.
Trying to pay attentive.
Hearing no other discussions, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Okay, thank you. The next item for consideration is to approve agreement number 17-51 with Franklin Township for using township bridge monies to replace a bridge on the township system. And this is a standard agreement we enter into with townships when they use the town bridge money. And this is a project that they'll be wanting to advertise for bids this spring and then get built this year.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the agreement for number 17-51, the replacement of bridge in Franklin Township.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Potter, second by Commissioner Vetch, and this is just a regular
agreement.
Regular approval. Is there any further discussions regarding the bridge in Franklin County, or Township of Franklin, in the Wright County?
In the Wright County.
Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Thank you. The last item for consideration today is to approve a condemnation resolution for unsigned parcels of right-of-way on our Highway 38 project. And as of today, I checked with Jeremy this morning, there's only 6 unsigned parcels, so he's signed 3 more people up since this document was put together. And even with this proceeding, which we need to do in order to have right of access to the land to build a project, and this with federal money is important, we can't even send the plans in for review and approval until we have the right-of-way secured. But once this proceeds with condemnation, we still continue to negotiate with landowners, and it's our hope. And typically, we do reach agreement with all of them, but this is just a step in the process.
Virgil, what 3 do we cross off? Are we going to get to that when we do it?
Parcel 11 has signed.
Okay.
Parcel 14 has signed.
Okay.
And parcel 30 is signed. And Jeremy said parcel 50 will likely be signed today, but
Parcel what?
parcel 50, but technically they're not signed yet.
So, and you won't do I mean, if it's signed, you're
right.
Not going to waste your time sending stuff out.
Correct.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion for the CASA 38 condemnation resolution with the removal of those 3 properties from the parcel 11, parcel 14, and parcel 30 removal from the resolution.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Newsom. Is there any other discussion?
Mr. Chair, if I might.
Burrell.
Virgil, and this has been modified a little bit as far as how much land would be needed. Right now, you're taking the least amount of land that you need to get the project accomplished. You're not just taking extra land. It's a very small part of.
As we always do, we just take minimally what we need to build a project and as required to accommodate utilities and things like that.
But initially, there were some concept plans that did show more acreage, and now this last plan is a lot smaller impact.
I think you're thinking of County Road 18.
Yes, I was.
No,
this is Highway 38.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry about that.
Any other discussion
No,
regarding
I think
County
that does
Road
it.
38?
I think that does it.
I know, the 8 confused you.
Well, 1 and a 3.
Yeah, close. Hearing none, resolution, Commissioner Vetch.
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries unanimous, the resolution.
Thank you.
Morning.
All right. Good morning.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chair, County Board.
And how's Sean?
This item was continued from our meeting of 2 weeks ago. We had 4 commissioners in attendance, and we had a long discussion, and it was decided to continue it until we had a full board.
All right. How do we want to start the discussion with this? I think one of the reasons it did get tabled was because Commissioner Burrell wasn't here. We wanted to hear a little bit of information from him.
Well, and Mr. Chair, if I might, I did talk with Commissioner Vetch yesterday, and apparently was working with something with the Assistant County Attorney too, but that...
Mr. Chair, I'll start out, I have my reservations on this item here, mostly because if we're going to allow schools in the townships, I don't really want to be tailoring it so that it's really to only maybe 2 or 3 parcels that could really achieve these standards in this ordinance. That was my biggest concern with it, and that's what brought us back to this meeting here today. With your absence, we wanted to have a little bit of feedback with you on that. In that meantime, I had some conversations with staff and other members to see what we could do to try and find some sort of a resolution that I would be comfortable with. My biggest concern was that if in 1, 2, 4 years from now, if we make this ordinance change and this school is no longer there, we kind of really allowed for that property owner to be able to almost advertise for a school to replace that school, which no other property owner really could do based on the current ordinance. That leaves me in this situation where I'd love to be able to see a period of time and to see what the impact is of it, and to see if it would be not as impactful to the townships by putting a school there, and looking to be able to find a way to give them that time to give us some history on it. Working with staff, I've just passed out here was in a kind of an amendment that would basically put a repealer in there, basically allowing the school to operate for 2 more calendar years to give us some history, and at which time we can come back and decide if we want to permanently amend the ordinance to allow for schools in the townships, or if we feel not comfortable based on the history and not wanting to make that permanent change.
Commissioner Newsom.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, thank you. There's a number of concerns I had about this whole thing, and tailoring it essentially so that it's on a lake, it's an existing facility or whatever. Looking at just charter schools in general, the state must have reservations about them, simply because they may organize an affiliated nonprofit building if it's been in operation at least 6 years. They have a net positive unreserved general balance, long-range plans, that kind of thing. The fact that they're actually putting a time frame on it is concerning, because when you look at the schools, the charter schools that have closed, between 2011 and 2014, like 20 per year are closing. And I know more are starting, and there's some fine schools out there, fine charter schools, as there are public and private schools. But I'm real concerned about this kind of tailoring to one organization too. When I first heard, when I happened to be at the Corona Town Board meeting when Mr. DeBoer came with the proposal, and it's like this environmental learning experience, it's sounded great, but there's been some hiccups in the road. My concern is, okay, so we've got this school out in a rural district, and then somebody else comes and they find an existing, camp on a lake and wants to put a school there too, and we start getting schools that may not be here in a few years, and that's, I don't know, it's not good. I mean, we have to hope that the state is going to really take a look at their test scores, which are,
Commissioner Potter, stick with the, stick with the facts regarding the planning and zoning.
So anyway, that's up to the state. But I think just for us, I'm not, I would be comfortable with the sunset thing that you're talking about.
Yeah, I kind of lost the floor there. But anyway, that's all right. So but I did want to just let people know, when this ordinance first came to planning and zoning, it was very broad. It just said, basically, we're going to allow schools up to 150. Sean, I mean, do you have it was like 2 lines long.
Correct.
And what we listened, and that the planning and zoning board, we listened to the school district superintendents, we listened to the members of the people that are going to the school whose kids are involved in it now, we listened to a lot of other members of the general public, and it was kind of a deal where they felt it was maybe opening up too much stuff, so staff got directed to shrink it down. And then, Derek, that's where it is. It gets tailored almost to, not say this particular school, but to very, very few. But it seemed like the school districts were more comfortable having that rather than opening up across the board. I obviously am supportive of this. I voted at the planning and zoning for it. But I'm not opposed to the sunset thing either, because I think if there's concerns with the school, or the school does fail, yeah, then maybe just have it come back from scratch. Now, by making this restrictive, I brought it up to the county attorney, and I don't know if it made the minutes or not, but I asked, what if I know there's a charter school, I think it's in Wisconsin, that they do flying. And now let's say that airport was out in the township, and they have students that want to, and they say it's one of the most successful charter schools in the country. People really want to get in this. They're on to flying careers, pilots and whatever. And I don't have this campground setting already and stuff. And basically Greg said, well, then we'd come back and we'd look at changing the ordinance. Well, and I said, you know what, I'm okay with that, because what is it going to take here? A couple, 3 months, and we can have it working. So, but there is a need. Charter schools, I'm not saying every one of them is good. It's like there was somebody that testified. There's good ones and there's bad ones. And but for parents to have a choice, and school districts actually have a choice. They could start, there's schools within a school where they can start their own charter schools and things like this too. So I just think the more choice that parents have, they're the ones that have to be accountable with their kids. They have to make sure their kids are getting the best education that they can for their particular needs. Not everyone is going to be a math wizard. Not everyone's going to be an accountant,
Commissioner Burrell, let's just stick with the zoning part of it, if you don't mind.
Mr. Chair.
So anyway, I would support this if with that timeout thing or the other way, actually.
Commissioner Vetch.
And for the record, my biggest concerns was the infrastructure that the townships have. Law enforcement, timeliness to response times, fire response times, medical response times, traffic needs, road infrastructures. Those are the biggest concerns that I have in changing our previous practice to today's practice, that decades ago, we switched from having country schools and bringing them into urban settings for infrastructure needs. And now we're looking at making that change, and I don't want to take that I don't want to make that change hastily. I want to take our time and make sure that we're comfortable making a permanent change for the future.
And again, Mr. Chair, like I said, I would support Commissioner Vetch's thing that he worked out with staff here. On the other hand, normally how these things would be done, and correct me if I'm wrong, the school will be back to get a conditional use, and at that time, they could have a timeout period. I've never seen this done with an ordinance before, but apparently if it can work that way, I guess I'm okay with it too.
Well, Mr. Chair, County Board, they'll still need a CUP.
Yeah.
So they'll need a conditional use. This is a repealer to the amendment. So that means the amendment would go away at that date.
And then, so they would have to come back and actually,
Well, if they're not there, they're not there.
yeah,
Right.
You would have to come back and start over.
and redo the ordinance again.
Correct.
Does that fine-looking gentleman with the bow tie have something that he wants to add, that he move forward? Pardon?
I was going to give you a proposed motion.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just curious, were they operating essentially as a conditional use permit under Corinna's planning and zoning, or how?
Mr. Chair, County Board, I would make the comment they've been an interim use,
Okay.
similar to what we're spelling out here. At the start, it appeared it was going to be very short-term, and then move into the previous model, going on the state land and operating a new school. For whatever reason, it did not go that way, so now the amendment is in front of you.
Is there any further discussions regarding this? Further questions? Does anybody have any questions
No, I guess
for the fine-looking gentleman in the bow tie?
No, go ahead and read a proposed motion.
Mr. Chair, staff would recommend that the proposed motion be to approve ordinance amendment number 17-3 with amendments 17-3A and 17-3A1.
And that contains section 4, correct, Ben?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Vetch, what that motion would do is we'd be adopting Amendment 17-3, 17-3A, amend 17-3, and then 17-3A1.
Includes.
Yes, they all end up amending each other.
Okay.
Yes, yep, 17-3A.
I want to make sure I followed that correctly.
Yes. All right.
I'm not confused.
Mr. Chair, I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Burrell, second by Commissioner Hewsom. Is there any further discussions regarding any of this?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Potter?
I had comments and people have questioned me from last time out when this was tabled. I tend to follow the Planning Commission because they did do everything by the law. People might like it, they might not like it. But if you don't trust your Planning Commission, you get rid of them. You know, and the Planning Commission, I think, went through all the exercises, everything to do. They had legal counsel there, and I asked that question point blank of Greg last time. Did they follow all the procedures, and everybody that was at the public hearing got to speak? And the answer was yes. So to make it clear for those that are still taking pot shots at me or whatever their criticism is, the thing is that the Planning Commission did do their job, and you know, and the results came out the way they are, and people might not agree with my terminology on it, but that's how I view it, as being a former elected official at local level that relied on the Planning Commission to help you, because they're the ones in the dirt getting muddy, beat up and bruised, and they came out with something that came out unanimous, and from the minutes and everything, it appeared that they had a lot of good conversation on this.
Mr. Chair, I read that in the paper too, and I wanted to thank Commissioner Potter publicly because he did back the planning, and we did. We took comment and we listened and we talked and we asked questions, and like I said, I think, Mike, this is going to accomplish the same thing, and I think a couple years from now when this comes back, you know, if that school is working and if the testimony that we got from the parents was accurate, that they see such value. There were parents that said that their kids would not be in school if it wasn't for this school. But I thank you for standing behind the commission, and I defended you actually in a conversation or two. I said no. Commissioner Potter was actually back in the commission, and I appreciated that. So thank you.
And Mr. Chair, myself and I imagine Commissioner Hewsom, we're not trying to take shots at our planning commission, but sometimes more eyes on an issue comes to a better result. And I think the idea behind this is that these meetings that this were being discussed at were very long meetings, and the planning commission was almost forced into a situation where I felt like they needed to come up with some sort of resolution for the school to go forward. And I believe that maybe had more eyes and more time been on there, that we could come up with a solution. And that's where, when it comes forward, it gives us our opportunity to add to it and to do some vetting on it.
Yeah, and, you know, Mr. Chair, normally when the planning commission goes unanimous, but reading their comments, certainly they weren't gung-ho about this. There's a lot of reservations, you know, among the members, and they were expressed in the two meetings. And so I was kind of surprised that in some ways that it did pass unanimously. But
and you were right in that assumption that we had a lot of concerns, and I said we didn't do it haphazardly. But the one thing that we have that we also know about is when this will come in for a conditional use permit, the planning commission, I will guarantee you, will look at this just as hard as before, and it's possible that they could have came up with something like this at the conditional use permitting. So I mean, this is just kind of unusual. I've never seen this in an ordinance before, where the zoning ordinance ends after a time period, but I think it's still going to start. It will work. The school will get what they need. And if they prove themselves, I don't think it's going to be an issue having a future board here reauthorize and maybe make more permanent the zoning change. So.
Okay, this is just a regular, it's not a resolution.
It's just an ordinance amendment, yep.
Okay. Is there any further discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same side. Motion carries unanimous. Commissioner, that's all we had? Okay. Commissioner Potter, regarding Building Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Building Committee met on January 10th, 2018. The members present, Potter, Delyden, Wilczek, and Kelly. Others present, Tagara and Kreiser. The item that we discussed was the boardroom sound system. We've had complaints in the past about people that couldn't hear us in the back of the room and different things. Some of the microphones are...
What did you say?
Yeah, exactly. My voice, I have outdoor voice, so mine carries pretty well, but not everybody's does. It was difficult to hear, so Tagara, it stated that the EPA Audiovisual had recently done some work, the sound system and speakers, but it's getting better, but it's still not great. And we want to make sure that people that come in here get to hear the meeting if they're sitting in the back there, especially because we want people to come out of here with good information. There was a proposal a couple years ago, about $40,000 to upgrade this thing, and I think the board all said, whoa, that's take a time out here. That was a little bit too much to go for with the, so we did add the line in the budget, look for an AV system upgrade as well as the carpet and other things in here. And we put everything on hold until that master space study was done. But the next step we took is the minimal look at new microphones, current system, things that we could take, and if we ended up moving from here, we could take with us. So that wouldn't be one of those lost costs that you had here, you're stuck with it. And there was a question, and Commissioner Delyden questioned the frequency because of FCC requirements and different modifications that some of us probably weren't as aware of as other ones were. Anyway, to look at this, the recommendation coming out of the Building Committee was to have IT work with administration, look further into a microphone option and replace, if necessary, to improve functionality and achieve FCC compliance. And we capped that project spending at $15,000. I think they came in a little bit less than that, but we want to make sure that there was, you know, if it comes out $100 over, we don't have to come back to the board. If we approve a number and it comes in over 100, we got to come back. But 15 is more than enough to take care of this. I think it was just slightly over 10, maybe 12 there, talking potential on this. And with that, Mr. Chair, I'll approve the minutes and the recommendation.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Potter, second by Commissioner Houston. Is there any further discussions regarding this? Regarding the FCC, the frequencies are net frequencies that a lot of people have been using for the wireless mics has been sold. So I just wanted to make sure that we didn't, if the frequency that we're currently on is changing or is one that was sold, I want to make sure that because within the next year, we'd have to repurchase stuff all over again. I just wanted to make sure it was.
Chair, I appreciated that information because I was unaware of that particular segment.
It's not really well known. It's just I'm involved in the church with the system, and I knew it from there too. Because we have the same issue there, that we have to replace the wireless lines. All right, so is there any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Personnel, Commissioner Newsom.
Thank you. The Personnel Employee Relations Committee met on January 10th, 2018. President Hewsome Delyden, S. Johnson, Lee Kelly, Michelle Miller, Partlow, Tagaro, Schwartz, Schur, and Mattice. And the first item was the Health and Human Services Workplace Expectation and Professional Standards. And this matter was tabled from the 12/13/17 personnel meeting. And Miller said that Jamie Goodwin Schwartz drafted a new plan. They have a lot of memos that they've acquired over the years, and Jamie's going through those actually they've over decades that are no longer relevant. And so the memos are primarily procedural in nature, so they come into play when the roles and responsibilities intersect between the different units in Health and Human Services. And I question whether the memos are needed if they're already reflected in the county policy. And Schwartz said that there are clarifications regarding how county policy is implemented, so it's kind of the difference between policies and procedures. And Christine Partlow gave the example of the motor pool, that the Health and Human Services has a policy that's more prescriptive than the county one.
A procedure.
But, yeah, sorry. But, well, it's a policy, but.
No, I thought it was just a procedure.
Okay, but it
That
falls.
might be wrong.
But maybe yeah, the policy, but it falls within the parameters and allows the team to better manage the department budget. And Human Resources Director Sean Johnson said it's a good opportunity to determine what policies the county board considers important to evaluate and review. And the language that I'm having a little trouble with the draft over the reading.
Pretty heavy.
That something the county coordinator must review any policies and procedures says the county coordinator must review any policies and procedures, and the administration department should receive copies. If there's any issues, they should go to the county board for review. And I said the process should go through administration first. Schwartz asked whether items specific to procedures within the Health and Human Services units need to be approved. And I said, no, not specific procedures. And Coordinator Kelly said that Schwartz is referring to more procedural issues versus county policy. Sometimes it's hard to say when that line is crossed. And the board should have copies of each department's policies that are not in the personnel policy manual. And Schwartz said the Health and Human Services policies and procedures are on SharePoint. Kelly says typically personnel policy changes must be reviewed and adopted by the county board. And the procedures, I didn't feel necessarily need to be approved as policies are separate from procedures. Schwartz said that Health and Human Services has developed core competencies and performance expectation based on job descriptions and posted them in administrative memos to be transparent to employees. Johnson said the labor attorney explained that the county is in compliance as long as the personnel policies are consistently referenced when addressing discipline issues in union contracts. He said there are many areas in the personnel policy that can be taken as descriptors to show expectations. Delyden said to clarify the points recommended by the labor attorney and then proceed. Schwartz said they would be rolling out the document to staff. Employees do not have to sign it. Excuse me. The recommendation is to authorize use of Health and Human Services Workplace Professional Standards document for onboarding without requiring employee signatures. And the second item.
Regarding that, there should be a procedure, or there is a sheet attached with those things.
With those,
so
right.
you know.
Yep, thank you. And the second item, request to hire mental health social worker 3, mental health professional above the 12%. And Miller said the request is to hire this person because it's been very challenging to fill for years. Part of it's due to the degree requirements, postgraduate work, and supervision experience needed. Candidates who are generally eligible are already therapists in the community and earning far above the wage range offered by the county. It took more than a year to fill a similar position in the mental and chemical health unit. Currently, the intake and assessments unit has a mental health social worker 3 position vacant for 6 months. This is an open, continuous posting that's filled until it's filled. Miller said more than 5 rounds of interviews have been conducted with 10 candidates in the last 6 months. And of course, it gets very costly to do that. Every candidate stated a minimally acceptable wage range that's significantly higher than the 12% above minimum. The current candidate has gone through 2 interviews. She has the necessary degrees and experiences with both adults and children. She works 2 part-time jobs, and one employer offered her $74,000 full-time per year. And Miller said the request is to hire her at $35.65 per hour, or 26.5% above the minimum 2018 pay scale. And she distributed a document on that. And I questioned whether there's any problems with leapfrogging, and we had discussion. And Delighten said that we should verify that no leapfrogging will occur, and then proceed with hiring the candidate since she sounds well qualified. And it's been open for so long. So the recommendation is to approve request to hire mental health social worker 3 at $35.65 per hour, or 26.5% above the minimum 2018 pay scale. Third item, extension office staffing. Regional Director Sarah Schur said that she supervises 2 office staff, 1.5 FTE in the Extension office, who are Wright County employees. And the rest of the Extension staff are University of Minnesota employees. With the move to the Public Works Building, Extension office staff are able to assist Director of Parks and Recreation, Mark Mattice. The Director of Extension does not office on-site, so she says there is some benefits to on-site supervision. She's transitioning to work with different counties beginning of the year. The new U of M Extension Regional Director will be Lori Vichy, who starts 1/29/18. Schur said she and Mattice thought it would be a good time to consider shifting the reporting relationships of Extension staff who are county employees to an on-site supervisor. And Vichy's main office will be in St. Cloud. She'll be supervising 5 counties, including Wright. So we talked about, how the logistics would work if Mattice is a supervisor, since he's not always on site. And he thought that was concerning also. There's times when the fair is going on and Extension staff are gone for a week and a half. And also, Park spends a lot of their time out in the field. So responsibility for the Public Works front office has never been identified, and the board has not given any particular direction in that regard. In his opinion, when the Extension staff is present, they serve as the front office people.
Well, they're going to get more supervision now than they had over here.
Yes, true.
I mean, that's what in a nutshell, that's what it boils down to.
Schur said when the Extension staff aren't there, Mattice and Parks and Recreation Operations Manager Brad Harrington will answer the door. So that's the other concern is, how can we handle people walking in if there's nobody at the front desk and they kind of wander around and they find their way out to the garage and everywhere else. It's a building issue, according to Mattice. there's 2 front departments, and so he asked if they should lock the inside door when both Parks and Extension are out and change the doorbell so it will ring in the supervisor's office. And Mark and I both agreed. And Matthias said that they could put a sign on the door telling people that they're out and ask them to ring the doorbell and leave a voicemail message when using a phone posted outside. And Delighten said let surveyor staff know when Parks and Extension employees are gone. It wouldn't pay to hire someone else as the situation doesn't arise that often. It's a handful of times a year, but it's definitely needs to be addressed. So, yeah, basically they can come into the vestibule and then ring the doorbell, so they want to stand out in the elements. So Matthias said the building is his main concern. He's fine with supervising the staff, so which involves signing their timesheets and doing performance appraisals. But he said perhaps office staff could also take minutes at the park commission meetings. Johnson said it's best to have a Wright County employee supervise county staff. Matthias volunteered to be a backup signature for claims when Vichy is out. And so we said that it's really doesn't seem to, supervision piece is not a concern. And the doorbells, hopefully, that will work out just fine. So the recommendations are to approve the logistics need to make a doorbell ring from outside the Public Works building to the Surveyor building as well as the front desk, and to approve changes requiring extension staff to report to the Director of Parks and Recreation. The 4th item was the H-1B visa sponsorship. Excuse me, Information Technology Director Adam Tagaro said he's seeking clarification regarding the county's position on this issue for international employees. He doesn't have an employee needing this kind of visa at the present, but just trying to be proactive. Hennepin County does have language in their recruitment statements that say a candidate does not qualify for employment if they require sponsorship. Tagaro said they're seeing a lot of international applicants. He has not allocated funds for visa expenses in his department budget. It's expensive, it's time-consuming, it's complex. We have dealt with this in the past. Johnson said the county's labor attorney indicated that statements such as the one Hennepin County uses in their job description and position postings is acceptable. It states, candidates must have the right to work in the U.S. that is not based solely on possession of a student visa or a visa sponsored by an employer. So, Johnson said the above language is included in Hennepin County's job postings. So we have the right to use the same language in ours. Kelly asked whether Johnson is saying that the county will not hire anyone with a visa. Johnson said this is strictly related to student visas that are sponsored by an employee, such as the H-1B visa. The wording would be included in the job posting and then position description. Recommendation is to approve addition of the following language to all job descriptions and postings. Candidates must have the right to work in the U.S. that is not based solely on the possession of a student visa or visa sponsored by an employee. With that, Mr. Chair, if no one has any questions, I will make a motion to approve the minutes and the recommendations.
Second that.
Motion by Commissioner Hewson, second by Commissioner Burrell. Is there any further questions or discussions? Regarding the minutes for all these different committees, and for the rest of the year, Commissioner Hewson, if you would always do the personnel, Commissioner Burrell, if you would always do the Ways and Means, Commissioner Vetch, if you will do the technology, and Commissioner Potter, the building. This way, instead of my asking you at the last minute, we'll allow you to summarize them and get a chance to provide us with synopsis instead of having to
Mr. Chair.
read everything.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Potter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Miriam, this is for Commissioner Delighten, so because his forgetter works better than his rememberer, so you don't have to worry about forgetting this later. You know, it's just a wise use of his capacity that he has currently, because now he is 60 years old.
I'm old. Not as old as some people, though, on the board.
Not as old as 2 of us.
All right. All right. Any further discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. I believe the building is next.
Nope.
Nope,
Technology.
technology.
Sorry.
All right, the technology commit on January 10th of 2018. A bunch of people were members were present. I'll read them off. Commissioner Dahlhead and Commissioner Vetch, Adam Tagaro, Lee Kelly, Christine Bartlow, Todd Hoffman, Tanya West, Bob Hevela, Virgil Hawkins. Also present was Olga Strobel, Sherry Nelson, Connie Mae Cooper, Britta Holland, Scott Wieland, Brian Asselson, Sue Virgin, Lindsay Meyer, and Jen Rassett.
I think in the future, I'm not sure we need to label, read off everybody that was present at our meetings. People are capable of reading. Since we do have the minutes on the county website, which is a lot better than we ever used to, I see no reason why we have to provide
Commissioner
people
Dahlhead
with all
is
the
going to want a
information.
hug from me after this, I tell you.
So we can just kind of do a little quick summary?
Well, I just, in the interest of saving people's time, and we have other meetings that we need to get to, and just, people are capable of reading,
If they want to read it.
Yeah.
and that way they'll get better information by reading it than they would by us talking about it.
Yep. So, first item on the agenda for the Technology Committee was the Office 365 status. The Office 365 rollout is on track. The IT department as a whole has migrated IT staff emails to O365 as planned. Other departments are being tested for a rollout as well. Current testing issues have been found in planning and zoning and court services. The IT department is actively working on solutions. In discussion, it was brought up the board's recent move on opioid litigation, and if this would impact Office 365 at all. IT staff stated that it will be looking into the matter, but overall it will not be a large factor. Office 365 continues to be a major project for the IT department, and rollout is on schedule. Informational only. ERP follow-up. With the direction of the committee and board, it has been scheduled for a 4-day informational planning workshop with Infotech. This workshop will come with minimal additional costs to the county, as it was included in the IT's 2018 Infotech membership. Commissioners expressed concerns of what the goals of the workshop would be. Infotech has very specific goals to provide a quality deliverable roadmap. Tagaro stated that Infotech may not be the vendor of choice to manage the ERP project, but this process will provide the starting points needed. The workshop itself will be February 5th through the 8th, with the goal of a small group of key players working on the deliverables. The action will be for Kelly, Hevela, and Tagaro will continue to plan the Infotech meeting for the week of February 5th. Third item discussed was the project portfolio. Adam Tagaro introduced the committee to the project portfolio manager, Britta Holland, which we met earlier today. Holland presented the committee an overview of the current IT project portfolio. The 2018 goal of the IT department concerning project management is the alignment of IT department goals with the county overall goals and work. Holland proposed the technology committee conduct a project prioritization exercise with a small group of up to 7 of enterprise projects. The technology committee is being asked to aid in providing that clear vision of this to the staff of what priority the next project should be. The exercise, the IT team will score a small set of top enterprise projects and present them to the committee to review at a later date. The action is to conduct a project priorities exercise on January 24th at the Technology Committee. So our next Technology Committee will be looking at prioritizing the 7 high-level projects that we currently have. The fourth item on there was the Zerker discussion. A status update of the notification by Zerker that 3 local PDs will need to be added to the county network. This has been an ongoing discussion that we've been having and wanting to vet out the potential costs. The committee discussed resolve around the financial impact to the county that this addition may have, that if there is needs to be a memo of understanding of financial obligation created or when it should be done. Right now, between the Sheriff's Department and IT, they're still having ongoing conversations between Zerker and the local PDs. There seems to be some conflict as to what the IT department believes the impact to the IT department would be versus Zerker seems to think it's a minimal impact. So right now, we're still going forward trying to figure out what the cost and impact is on it.
Well, the biggest problem is Zerker selling the system to the other police departments without informing us and just assuming that we could take care of all the needs without providing us what that information needs are yet, and hardware, and we still don't have that info.
Yep.
So it's been disappointing with Zerker as far as I'm concerned.
So the action is Hoffman will submit a project request form to which the IT will assign a BA and begin the process of managing the project. Include the Zerker update in the next technology meeting on January 24th. Number 5 was additional topics for the next meeting on base standardization, Zerker update, and project prioritization exercise. With that, I will make a motion to approve the technology minutes from January 10th with the recommendations.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Vett, second by Commissioner Potter. Is there any other discussions regarding any of this? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Ways and Means, Commissioner Burrell.
Mr. Chair, if I might, if you'd pull out the map that's in the minutes here, I just want to go over this real quick. I actually have to make a couple little amendments to the minutes before I go through. You can see the trail comes from basically from Highway 12 to the north on the east side of County Road 6. Then it gets up to a point where it actually crosses County Road 6. And at that point, there will be a crosswalk lighting system where the pedestrian would push a button, the lights would flash signifying that there's a pedestrian in the crosswalk. There was some confusion in the minutes here that is already part of the proposed project from Howard Lake. That crosswalk lighting system is already there. At several times during the meeting, we referred to from the lighting system onto the fairgrounds. They did not do that. They're not doing anything onto the fairgrounds. So that conversation came up, but it made it sound like the lighting system was part of what we might be looking at later. That is already part of the proposed project by Howard Lake. So if you had turned to page 2 of 2 on the minutes, I'm actually going to just make a quick change. On the second paragraph, third line down, it says additional funds to the Fair Board to construct, instead of construct it, to construct an extension of the sidewalk onto the fairgrounds. That would the way that should read. So Burrell suggested that the county could provide additional funds to the Fair Board to construct an extension of the sidewalk onto the fairgrounds. So it was not anything with the lighting. It says up on top that once the time came for the construct the rapid flashing beacon, that's already part of the project. So at that point from there to the west, we could look at doing something as an improvement later on, but not at this time. Okay. And then in the recommendation itself at the end, I'll make one slight little change too. But basically, what this is, we've looked at this for years now since we've been on the board here. It's the city has tried to work with the fair. The fairs, they don't have the money to do it. The Fair Board would like the trail out there. They don't have the funds for it. The county, they actually came and said, would the county pay for it? And I know Pat was on the board yet, and we were reluctant to put any money toward it. Now, in the last year, Howard Lake turned back some TIF money. And I said, let's just not tie this together because I don't want to open up a can of worms. So I said, But the bottom line is, we have $77,000 in our general fund that we did not have 2 years ago. So I just want the board to keep that in mind. So basically, we're looking at giving the county fair board some funding toward this project that they could, partner up with Howard Lake and get this out. I think that it is a very worthwhile project. It's the people right now, the pedestrians walk on the County Road 6. It's dangerous, especially at night. The police department said they have not actually had any serious people hit, but there have been accidents caused by people that went out in the road, somebody slammed the brakes on or turned to avoid them and smashed in. So there have been accidents, but luckily no one has been hurt or killed out there. So, that's really what it is. The city has really done a lot of legwork on this. And what we're looking for here at the county, I'll just read the proposed recommendation, is to allot $77,000 to the Fair Board for construction of a sidewalk/trail from downtown Howard Lake along County Road 6 to provide safe pedestrian access to the county fairgrounds. Further discussion regarding funding the crosswalk and then cross-out light project at the entrance to the fairground may be discussed in the future at the initiative of the county board. So that's where we are with this particular project. The other thing that came before us, there's a special deputy position. I believe it's already been filled, hasn't it, Chris? Or
I think they have someone working on it.
it's either it's proposed or it has already been filled, but there was discussion of whether that special deputy who would be taking care of a lot of the parks patrol and different things like that would be able to enforce planning and zoning ordinance. And at this time, our ordinance does not allow that. So our county attorney, assistant county attorney recommended that we do an ordinance change and at the same time here and put it out for public hearing to allow that officer to also enforce planning and zoning. And remember, right now, that position that's not in the job description, but this way, if their job description ever changed in the future, the ordinance is already in place. Right. So that was it. So with that, Mr. Chair, I make the recommendation to approve the minutes and the recommendations.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Burrell, second by Commissioner Houston. Questions, Commissioner Vetch?
I appreciate Commissioner Burrell making the change on this. I just want to make for the record, I don't want the county to get in the business of using turn-back TIF dollars for local municipal projects. We'd open up a real dangerous road if we started doing that. So this, I want clearly for the record, was a Fair Board project. There you go. And we're funding it through a Fair Board project. Yep. So I
made that point. The only thing I said that we had to consider is there's money there that wasn't there before, but that's as far as I'm going to go with it. I'm with you, Commissioner Vetch.
Is there any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. All right. Items for scheduled committee of the whole to review class comp requests for proposals.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you recall, the RFP closed on the 12th of January. We received 8 proposals. We'll get copies of those to you later in the day today for your review. We'd like to schedule a committee of the whole to narrow down kind of our first cut. We are looking at the afternoon of February 14th, if that would work for the board. It is a committee day. Thought most of you might be here. So proposing February 14th at either 1 or 1:30.
Mr. Chair, I'll make that motion.
I'll second it if it's 1:30.
Okay.
All right, 1:30 on February 14th, I can do that.
All right, 1:30 on the 14th, you said?
Correct.
Class and comp study.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Alrighty. Committee of the whole legislation priorities meeting. Mr. Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've been in a email frenzy with our legislators. Looks like we've landed on February 7th at 1:30 in the afternoon. I have confirmation from 8 out of our 10 legislators that can make that time, and possibly the other 2 will be as well. So if it's workable for the board, I would like to schedule a meeting for 1:30 on February 7th.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to set a committee of the whole for legislative priorities at 1:30 on February 7th.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Potter, second by Commissioner Hewsom. For a whole legislative priorities meeting, I guess it's been too long, for February 7th at 1:30, and I think this is going to be a good thing, and hopefully we'll be doing them more in the future. Is there any other discussions regarding this? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. In the interest of time, because we have other meetings and there are people here already for that, we are going to adjourn this meeting and meet in 10 minutes for the Committee of the Whole meetings. Does anybody have an issue with that, or is there something pressing?
That's fine.
Discretion of the chair.
Pressing is nothing pressing?
Nope.
Okay, we are adjourned at 10:41.